Having a business means managing problems. Now, if you're like me, you don't necessarily talk with the people around you about your problems. So it's difficult to share. But I'm about to share with you one of the problems that I had with one of my businesses in this video. I'll see you inside. So to give you a little bit of a background, I own two businesses at the time of this video, and one of the business is a training company. So what do? I send professional to train people on site in businesses for a contract that I have found. So I hire people professionals that can do the task. Now, for this particular situation, I had a very big client that had a need, and I was not able to fulfill that need with current professionals. So I had to hire a new employee. So I hired, or I did the hiring process in an environment where it's very hard right now to hire. The unemployment rate is really low. There's a lot of demands. So the conditions are not necessarily very good for employers like myself. So it's hard to find very good candidate. So having said that, I'm not going to say no to a client. So I activate a recruitment process. So out of the candidates, I select one. I give that person a mandate that is a little bit smaller to validate all of the information, and everything is fine. She is very good. She did a great job, and I have a lot of confidence, and I can send that person into my big client. Now, the process starts, the training period starts, and it's a training that goes over many months. Okay, so at one point, we do an audit to measure the satisfaction of the clientele, and it comes back not very good. So they're not happy, that person is not meeting their objectives, and they have a set of recommendations. So perfect. The first thing that I think a good manager should do before you hit the panic button is sit down with that person and try to work things out. So obviously you get both sides of the story. So you talk with your employee and you try to get as much feedback from their perspective. And obviously you bring in the perspective of the client, and you map out a strategy to try to meet the reality of the employee and the reality of the client. Now, you set forth that strategy and you set measurements a little bit later on to make sure that we are getting closer to the objectives of the clients. So this is exactly what I did with that person. I sat down with that person. We identified a few things. We did corrections. We set out a plan, and we set the plan into motion. So about a month later, we measured, and even though there were a lot of improvement, the client were still not satisfied. So we did another process of fine-tuning the objectives to try to match and please the client. And on a second audit, that proved to be not sufficient. So then at that time, you have to take a drastic measure. Obviously, as an employer, you need to keep your clients. These are the people that give you money, and this is how you make a living. So I had to replace the employee. So I had to redo another hiring process, go through all of that, and introduce a new person with all of that knowledge that we had gathered together. So the new person was a lot more prepared. So in that second attempt with another professional, the success level was a lot higher, and we were able to satisfy the client. So all of those are very much ways of addressing problems that are very common, and you can find some information on that on the internet. So basically, you identify the problem, try to find a solution, try to implement the solution, measure if the solution was properly implemented, if it solved the problem, and then you do a retroaction loop until the problem is solved. And this is pretty much what I did. The twist that I had on this problem, and that opened up my eyes and I wanted to share with you, is that the client was a very big client of mine, and he still is. But as it is many times the case with smaller companies, we have few clients that give us a lot of our revenues. And that client is probably somewhere around 30, 40, or 50, all the way up to 50%. I don't know, I would have to check the numbers. But he is a very important part of my business. When he's not happy, it has a big impact on my company. So the risk of losing that client could be catastrophic. So that was one of the things that I realized. And at the same time that I did the various strategies I explained to solve that problem, I implemented another strategy that was to go and find more clients. Now, obviously, that would not solve the operational problem that I had in front of me that I had to address, but what it would probably help to solve, if I could decrease the dependency that I had on this big client, then the impact of having an unsatisfied client would not be so catastrophic. I mean, obviously, you don't manage a company to have unsatisfied customers, but one of the things that you can do is you can diversify your risk. So, said in another way, all of that problem had me thinking that my risk was a little bit too much concentrated on too few clients, and I was very dependent on them. So I worked really hard to try to diversify my portfolio. So that is a way of thinking that I think is very good for us as entrepreneurs. So sometimes we have things that happen in our business and we do solve that thing at that point, but it is very good sometimes to take a step back and analyze the big picture to make sure that maybe we have other things to solve. Maybe we have other questions that needs to be answered, and maybe we can continue growing our business in a way that is a little bit more sustainable. So if you have experience, please share with all of the viewers of this video in the comment section. And if there's some good ones, maybe I'll add them on to this video or do another video. Thank you for sharing this video and getting this channel known. I appreciate your help. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.